All your favorite wrestling shows rolled into one. Welcome to the We Book It podcast. Let's start the show.
Man, welcome in indeed, everybody. I am your host, Virgil, in here for what is a very special mashup of not only who's next at NXT, but also AEW Dynamite, AEW All Elite Recap. Appreciate each and every last one of you guys that are tuning into this episode. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of All Elite Recap or who's next at NXT. Listen, got a lot to cover, so let's get down to business. All right, so although NXT Heatwave is coming up, this episode of NXT on Tuesday night at the WWE Performance Center boasted a fairly loaded lineup on paper. So what do we got? We got Kendal Grey versus Lola Vice, headlined for the NXT Women's Championship. This is their rematch from the Great American Bash. And took place in the NXT Underground, an environment that Vice is extremely familiar and undefeated in. Zarya also had a chance to add another championship to her collection when she challenged Ren Sinclair for the WWE Women's Speed Championship. And then, of course, we also had in the men's division the NXT Tag Team Champions, the Vanity Project, had their hands full with the former No Quarter Catch crew duo of Myles Borne and Tavion Heights, where the goal was up for grabs. So let's get down to business, as they say. So make sure that you guys comment on each of these matches. Give your thoughts too. I will read them out as we go along. All right, so first and foremost, the night started out on NXT with Jada Parker and Thea Hale versus Nikita Lyons and Carmen Petrovich. So this was Nikita Lyons and Carmen Petrovich's chance to prove themselves to the woman who cost Natty a recent win against Jada Parker. They dominated on offense for the first half of the match, especially after Parker missed her Hispanic finisher on the outside and crashed into the steel steps. But a hot tag from Hale to Parker got the baby faces right back into it. Despite enduring a heart attack from Lyons and Petrovic, Parker was able to survive thanks to an assist from Hale. After Parker took care of Petrovic, a leap off the ropes onto Lyons secured Hale with the win for her team. Post-match, the heels attempted to outnumber the babyfaces but were unsuccessful. It's nice to see Thea Hale getting something going again after floundering for the better part of the past few months. It seems like ever since she accidentally won the NXT North American Women's Championship, she kind of didn't know what to do with her after that, which is hilarious because I felt like she had a lot of groundswell of people that were in her corner. But another thing you got to remember about her, she's also super young too. So like I said, she has her time and she'll have her chance in NXT to be the big girl there. So we'll just have to wait and see for that to happen. So we'll see if the alliance between Parker and Hale sticks, but they already have quality chemistry as partners. But a betrayal seems evident or inevitable in this one, which basically feels like it's going to end up being Jada Parker turning on Thea Hale. Thea Hale just screams white meat babyface to me, whereas, you know, like I said, I think they're trying to find the edge with Jada Parker and see if she has the heel characteristics before they call her up to the main roster. I do think that probably next year sometime will be the time where they call up Miss Parker. I think her days in NXT are numbered, especially with who she is currently dating. All right. Next up, we got Tony D'Angelo, Grayson Waller, and Cruz Montana exchanging words. So Tony D'Angelo was out to address Grayson Waller, whose controversial comments on last week's NXT had been the talk of the wrestling world heading to SummerSlam weekend. He said Waller not only disrespected NXT as a whole, but also significantly the NXT Championship. He told Waller, who popped up on the podium in the distance, that he was the only one from their War Games team in December 2021 to not amount to much success and not hold any singles gold in NXT or on the main roster, which is actually fairly true. Waller responded by reiterating that everyone has been talking about him for the past week, not D'Angelo. But he was interrupted by Cruz Montana, who declared that he is exactly who he says he is and noted that Waller has spent years trying to get people to notice him, while Montana has had people relying on him and holding him accountable, which is also true. D'Angelo cut the chat short and established that Waller and Montana have to fight each other with a shot at the NXT title at Heatwave hanging in the balance. So a couple of things here I want to address. I like the fact that Grayson Waller is going back to NXT because he wasn't getting no burn in WWE in the main roster, whether that be on SmackDown, whether that be on Raw. It does feel like this is his last chance, though. Like, if Waller doesn't find something that sticks this time, that he could be out of there. And it will suck for him because I do think he's a great talker. I do think he can stand to get better in the ring. But I do think that he's a great talker, and I do think that he brings a lot to the table when it comes to his promo. I think he'd be an even better manager than it is wrestler, but I think that if you put him with somebody who's a wrestler, he will eventually end up outshining them, which is not what you want a manager to do. You don't want the manager to outshine the wrestler that's supposed to be propping up. So that's why some of Paul Heyman guys didn't work, because Heyman outshined them and they couldn't stand to the light that he was putting on them. So again, like I said, Montana is also a natural fit in NXT, and it's smart to put him at the top title mix from the get-go. He doesn't need to win the gold anytime soon, but just having him there at the top, I mean, the seeds are automatically planted for you to see that one day he will be the face of NXT. Now, how will he fit when he gets to the main roster? That remains to be seen. But like I said, I also think he could stand to do a name change, not necessarily losing the Montana part. I actually just go from Cruz Montana to just straight up Montana. I think it sounds good. I think that it flows well. I don't know. Cruz sounds kind of hokey to me. I don't know. I don't like it. Anyways, the next match was a WWE Women's Speed Championship, Ren Sinclair versus Zarya. With it being a title match, this had a 5-minute time limit instead of the typical 3 minutes. Stipulation was that Ren Sinclair would earn herself a shot at the NXT Women's North American Championship if she retained the title here. Sinclair and Zarya packed plenty of action into the 5 minutes, so it was competitive throughout. An impressive facebuster from Sinclair nearly got her the 3 count, but a spear from Zarya sent them both spiraling through the ropes to the outside of the ring. They traded finishers in the closing seconds of the match, but the clock ran out before either of them could capitalize. The result, Ren Sinclair versus Zarya, ended in a 5-minute time limit draw. Sinclair retained the WWE Women's Speed Championship. So this match, like any other speed match, is hard to follow just because it's so much packed in action so quickly. Their next match over the NXT North American Women's Championship should be better, seeing as it will be longer. Zarya should go over decisively at that point. But like I said, still, you want to make sure that you keep Ren Sinclair looking good herself. Hey, D-Money Moolah gang, what's going on? We're going over NXT right now, and then we're going to switch over and go over AEW next. So make sure that you write your comments in. Make sure that you guys get those comments in. Appreciate you for tuning in, Brody. He says Jada Parker needs to be the champ. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not sold on Jada Parker. I mean, I listen. Jada Parker has a great body. I think her attitude and her personality doesn't seem like the actual her. I don't know that we've seen Jada Parker as she is in real life yet. It feels like she's trying to be what somebody in the back is telling her to be, whether that's a hip hop black girl or some type of thing like that. But like, I don't feel like she's being her authentic self. It doesn't feel real to me. I haven't connected with Jada Parker yet. And so therefore I can't put my stock in her being a champion, because your champions have to be people that relate to the crowd, or that the crowd want to see. And I mean, listen, Jada Parker, for me, it's not a must see every single time she's on my television. There are much other women in NXT that that are must see to me right now versus her. Now, hopefully she finds it, or she may find herself out of NXT, or she could find herself in Evolve. She could end up having to take the Nikita Lyons role, where she goes down even a step lower, figure some things out, and then has to come back to NXT to really figure out who she is. But he said, no, I think that's her. I see women that look like her in the corner stores in Philly. It's accurate, trust me. Yeah, I'm gonna take your word from it. I ain't never been to Philly yet, but shout out to you too, being from Philly, man. Appreciate you for tuning in to the show. But let's get back to the action. Next up, we got the NXT Tag Team Championship, the Vanity Project versus Myles Borne and Tavion Heights. So Myles Borne and Tavion Heights have had so many reunions since the dissolution of No Quarter Catch Crew that they're practically a full-fledged team at this point. That said, they work well enough together as partners that it's hardly an issue that they continue to join forces. Vanity Project evaded everything as always, but Heights and Borne weathered the storm. They even hit an awesome-looking double team maneuver on Vanity Project down the stretch. We also had Jackson Drake and Micah Lockwood, who were in the Vanity Project's corner, were ejected after making their presence felt at ringside, leading to Tavion Heights hitting Ricky Smokes with the height of glory to clinch the NXT World Tag Team Championships for the first time. So Myles Borne finds himself a double champion. He is still your North American champion, men's champion, and he is also now an NXT Tag Team Champion. So one thing about the Vanity Project, which I hope this translates over when they do eventually get called up to the main roster, they can always be consistently counted on for a fun match. Borne and Heights are excellent in their own right, so this turned out to be an enjoyable affair with great pace. Pace matters, especially in a 2-hour episode where you basically have to give each match 10 minutes tops to work, because you got so much other stuff that you're doing at the same time. So to me, the fact that they were able to maximize this and give us great television and give us basically a great match right here meant the world. So like I said, I think that was a really good match. Next up, we got Keanu Carver versus EK Prosper. So EK Prosper previously beat Keanu Carver twice in clean fashion, so this was a must-win situation for Carver. The losses seem to humble Carver, who has been exhibiting more babyface tendencies since being humbled. These two have had great chemistry throughout their mini rivalry. Prosper left the commentators in awe with a standing moonsault off the second rope. And after taking their fight to the announce table, Prosper delivered another incredible moonsault to Carver. Prosper then hit a huge swanton-style blockbuster to Carver, who subsequently caught Prosper in the air and smashed him with the suplex. From Carver's powerful powerbomb to Prosper's shining wizard, it was a flurry of exciting offense before Carver counted one last moonsault for Prosper into a small package for the victory. So Keanu Carver finally getting that win that he desperately needed against EK Prosper. So last but not least, y'all, we have our NXT Underground match of the night. It's the Women's Championship match, Kendal Grey versus Lola Vice. So Lola Vice was undefeated in the NXT Underground coming into this contest. She and Kendal Grey were evenly matched early on, competing, complete with Vice specializing in strikes and Grey utilizing her amateur wrestling background. Right before the commercial break, Vice sent Grey face first into the steel steps, leading to her bleeding ear. That became the story of the bout from that point forward, with Grey selling her head bouncing right around out the ring, courtesy of the back fist from Vice. When an errant back fist from Vice took down the referee, Vice choked out Grey with one of her signature sleepers. Rand Sinclair then revived Grey with multiple slaps to the face. Grey locked in a lethal armbar on Vice to score the submission win and retain her championship. So Kendal Grey defeated Lola Vice in the NXT Underground match to retain the NXT Women's Championship. A lot of people believe This was Lola Vice's swan song in NXT that she will be called up to the main roster after this. Can't say that I love that idea. And the reason why I say that is because there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of women in WWE right now on SmackDown and on Raw. And a lot of them aren't even getting TV time. Guys, remember, we ain't seen Jordan Grace in months. I'm worried that Lola Vice will come be a shiny new toy for a few weeks and then get lost in the shuffle. Now, albeit she is dating Damian Priest. So, like I said, I do think actually D Money, I'm right there with you. I do think that she needs to go to SmackDown. Absolutely. And I think that she will go to SmackDown because she is dating Damian Priest. Excuse me. However, she does run the risk on SmackDown of getting lost in the shuffle. There's a lot going on right now. And then you also have the rumors of a lot of women getting ready to return too. So you look at this and you say to yourself, I mean, do you want to run that risk with her? Do you want to, take that chance with her? So, I mean, like I said, it's a lot to think about. Now, again, she's outworn her welcome in NXT. And since there is no TNA partnership, you can't send her over to TNA and have her work. You absolutely can't send her to AAA Mexico with Damian Priest to work there. I just don't want people who are talented like Lola Vice getting lost in the shuffle on SmackDown and on Raw. Last I checked, if the Profits are on Raw, I'm almost assuming Bianca's on Raw too, even though when she left, she was on SmackDown. So I think before she got injured and she injured her knuckle, I think she was gonna go to Raw, make the move to Raw along with the Profits to work on Monday Night Raw, and she was going to end up winning that Women's World Championship over there, which I do think she's going to look great with that belt whenever she does win it. But yeah, no, I believe she we last saw her on SmackDown, but I do believe she's moving to Raw with the Profits though. All right, that is your NXT card for this week. Again, another stand-up show from Shawn Michaels. It stood the test of time. He does a pretty bang-up job every week. I'm going to go ahead and give that a B-. Let me know what you guys think in the comments on that episode of NXT. Now, let's move over to AEW and cover the All Elite recap. So, AEW this week, y'all, was in the Arena Mexico in Mexico City, Mexico for a special Grand Slam Mexico edition of Dynamite. So Will Ospreay looked to settle his issues with Mark Davis in the Mexican street fight. Hangman Adam Page teamed up with Brody to challenge the demand for the World Trios Championship. Kyle Fletcher defended the International Championship against Speedball Mike Bailey. Mercedes Moné and Divine Dominion teamed up to take down Willow Nightingale and the Brawling Birds. And these were just the beginning of a jam-packed 2.5-hour episode of the All Elite recap. So, all right, here we go from here. So the Death Riders versus Young Bucks and Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. So these two teams did not wait long to start brawling. Matt and Nick Jackson inspired even Christian to fly down onto the Death Riders, gaining an early advantage into the commercial break. Mox tried to turn the tide from the break, but the surprise chemistry of their opponents caused him problems, including a double 619 from Cope and Nick. The Patriarch delivered a low blow to Mox, followed by a triple super kick for the near fall on the Continental Champion. Marina Shafir distracted Cope from a spear and received a low blow from Christian. After the team fought off Yuta and Garcia, Cope caught Mox with a spear. Pac knocked the Rated R superstar into Matt and caught Cope with a roll-up with a handful of tights to take the win. So they do go ahead and the Death Riders do go ahead and get the victory in this one. It's a good match despite emphatically elevated by a hot crowd that was interacting with everyone. I'm telling you, those crowds in Mexico, you know what's crazy, y'all? And y'all tell me what y'all think about this. I feel like AEW and WWE would benefit from doing more shows outside the country. I feel like anytime they go anywhere outside of them, outside the United States of America, the shows are legitimately always better. One, because they're put on better cards. Two, I feel like the fans appreciate it more. I feel like we are so like um just so used to WWE and so used to AEW that we don't interact like like those crowds do. So, like I said, Cope talked up on Instagram about how much it meant for him to compete in Arena Mexico. He arrived with a specialty luchador mask. The crowd was electric from the start, erupting for many of the top AEW stars arriving, as well as popping big for explosive spots. So, yeah, next up, we did the number one spot in the Casino Gauntlet. So, Tommaso Ciampa versus Commander versus Andrade El Idolo. So, while Ciampa tried to drive the crowd's ire early, he was taken down by the impressive rope walk dive of Commander. Andrade caught Commander with a clean, with a clean tornillo to the floor. Then found a woman Nigel McGuinness described as a world-class honey for a selfie in the break. The Psycho Killer took over, though, through the break by catching Commander mid-springboard with a strong knee strike. El Ideolo knocked down Ciampa to pull off his pants to please the crowd. Ciampa took back over and laid out Andrade's pants with a Project Ciampa. When nothing was keeping his actual opponents down through, Ciampa argued with ref Aubrey Edwards. Andrade used the distraction to catch Ciampa with a corner Meteora and the Dia de los Muertos. Commander hit Ciampa with the Silitio Mundo, but Andrade caught Commander with the DM right after for the win. Afterward, Andrade told the crowd that he would win the Casino Gauntlet for all of Mexico and all his fellow Latinos. Next up, MJF returned to attack El Diablo with his Triple B, stealing back his diamond ring before punching Andrade with it. The Salt of the Earth then announced he would compete in the number 2 spot qualifier for the Casino Gauntlet next week, and to prove the world that he was the one true world champion. Unsurprising, this was excellent, building on the athleticism of all three men while utilizing the natural likability of both baby faces, especially in Mexico. Meanwhile, that only became clearer with the return of MJF, who was on a collision course with El Ideolo. MJF delivered his usual strong promo work, selling the importance of the Casino Gauntlet at All In. It is a shame that they will not fight one-on-one at All In, but hopefully that will eventually be the goal between these two, which I do think that is the goal in the end. So it looks like Andrade probably will win the Casino Gauntlet over MJF, but best bets would be a mysterious entrant while MJF and Andrade take each other out. We'll just have to see what happens with that. But MJF definitely came back, cut a one-of-a-kind promo. You guys saw on the on the thumbnail that I have for this exactly what MJF had to say. He was going crazy. He came back with his brown AEW World Championship belt that he affectionately calls the Triple B. And yeah, man, he went psycho nuts on this episode. So we'll have to see what happens between them. So next up, we got Mercedes Moné and Divine Dominion versus Willow Nightingale and the Brawling Birds. Willow showed early chemistry with Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor, running over the competition with explosive offense. They even managed to knock Bane off her feet, followed by Hayter diving onto all the heels on the floor into the commercial break. Cross found herself isolated by the confident Brawling Birds back from break. The Megasus turned the tide as the two established teams collided in the center of the ring. Monet and Willow tagged in and gave fans a preview of All In, delivering hard-hitting offense. After a clothesline, Willow teased the Babe with the powerbomb until Divine Dominion made the save. The CEO tried to catch Willow with the Monet Maker, but Willow reversed into a backslide for a 3 count. So in this match, you had 6 of AEW's top women colliding and made the most of the moment. It's interesting that they would have Willow beat Monet right now. This could be a precursor to let you know that at All In, Willow will lose the AEW World Championship maybe to Monet, which would be crazy, but we'll have to see what happens with that. So we'll see what happens. The International Championship was next. It was Kyle Fletcher versus Speedball Mike Bailey. Both men arrived in mass, but while Bailey wore his with respect until the match, the protostar stomped on his mask in disrespect. The hard-hitting offense of Fletcher took down Bailey early, including an avalanche Michinoku driver for a 2 count before the commercial break. Speedball then tried to fight back after the break, flying at the protostar with a little regard for his own body. The two fought to the stage where Fletcher teased a brainbuster, but Bailey fought it off and hit a moonsault off of the steps. Back in the ring, Speedball suffered another Michinoku driver for a near fall. Fletcher rolled to the floor with Bailey into an apron powerbomb. He rolled up with a corner rocket kick and sheer drop brainbuster for a close near fall. Bailey caught Fletcher with the top rope Poisarana into Weapon X for the closest near fall of the match. The protostar would not be denied, picking up the victory after a long dart into the second turnbuckle and a turnbuckle brain buster. So, as you guys already know, Fletcher and Speedball are soulmate opponents, proven again by another show-stealing match in this one. The result, Fletcher defeated Speedball by pinfall to retain the International Championship. These two definitely have great chemistry. Love watching what they do in the ring against each other. Don Callis in this match was a true manager for Fletcher for the night, to delight of commentary, not having to talk to him. Obviously, the crowd in Mexico was chanting, "This is Lucha," as they rocked the arena and they're in the stage brawl. So, like I said, they had a very, very good match. Next up, we had the Don Callis family versus Mystico, Jericho, and Darby Allin. So Knight started the action by attacking the Daredevil during his entrance, giving the Jet the most heat of anyone in this match. Okada helped the family keep control into the break with a vicious drop kick to Allin. Mystico helped rally the team in a crowd-pleasing sequence with a series of dives onto the family at ringside. Knight tried to steal the win by teasing a coast-to-coast to Allin, but Jericho caught him with the Judas effect. As Y2J locked Okada in the walls of Jericho and Mystico locked in La Mystica on Hichiro, the Daredevil laid into Knight with a coffin drop for the win. One moment that I want to bring up in here, Jericho did not come dressed as Y2J. He did not come dressed as the Painmaker. He did not come dressed as any of his other proteges. He actually came out dressed up as a throwback gear to his time as Corazano de Leon in CMLL and played on his high-flying past as he could in the match. So he came out looking like Lionheart Chris Jericho, which is one of his former ways of wrestling. So one of his former looks that he had. So pretty cool to see that, even though Jericho's body is definitely not the same as it was 30 years ago when he was wrestling as this character. Next up, we have Persephone versus Chris Statlander. So the CMLL World Women's Champion was the obvious crowd favorite despite her dirty tactics throughout this fight. Thunder Rosa watched the action outside the ring, frequently jaw-jacking with Persephone while she supported Statlander. A strong drop kick from Persephone helped her take control into the break, and she continued to challenge the power of Stat with a confident aggression. Stat missed the 450 splash and ran right into a spear from Persephone in frustration. Persephone stole Rosa's Mexican National Championship and blasted her in the head with it. Stat took out Persephone but accidentally knocked down the referee at ringside. This allowed Hikaru Shida to take Rosa's title, blast Stat, and set up a springboard frog splash from Persephone for the win. Afterward, Maya World and Hyen arrived to make sure Stat and Rosa were okay, while Persephone mocked them all for trying to beat her in her arena. Again, a very good match. Like I said, a very strong showing from this crowd. So, like I said, I mean, anytime you have Latin wrestlers wrestling in this, you're going to see these type of matches. I'm very, very excited for this. So, with the next up, you had the World Trios Championship, the Demand versus Bandido and Hangman Adam Page. The Demand won the championships, if not, but 2 weeks ago, I think. And now they were already going to defend them, and unfortunately, spoiler alert, lose them. So the Demand took advantage of the inexperience of their opponents early, but they could not handle the fresh Hangman Adam Page. He set the pace and helped Bandido dive onto the Demand. However, Bishop Khan and Tua Leona took out the baby faces and laid into Bandido with backbreaker into the commercial break. Like the man kept control past the break as Ricochet proved too elusive for the baby faces. On a night full of incredible action, this was a solid but forgettable for the pure action. However, the title win will be one of the most talked about moments of the show. The Cowboy is none other than a champion again. And hopefully, without a world title distraction, he and Brody can run the gold for a while. This is a fun trio dynamic that AEW should lean into past All In. It should be tough for any trio to dethrone them until one comes together with a lot of power. So the result of this match, Bandido, King, and Hangman Adam Page defeat Leona, Khan, and Ricochet by pinfall to become the new World Trios champion. And last but not least, Mark Davis takes on Will Ospreay in a Mexico City street fight. This was your main event of the evening. So Will Ospreay went after Mark Davis immediately, starting strong until Davis threw Ospreay into a fan at ringside, going into the commercial break. Then back from the commercial break, the two fought on the top of the stage where Davis blasted Ospreay with a board that sent the aerial assassin rolling down the steps. The Auxilla sent Ospreay headfirst into a steel chair in the corner that busted him open. Davis used a fork to further open the wound. Ospreay fought back and used the fork to bust open Davis. However, Davis responded with a brutal running crucifix piledriver through the chairs for a near fall. The aerial assassin turned the tide fully with a crotch grab and an apron piledriver. Davis returned to the ring into a hidden blade for a near fall. Ospreay blocked a running clothesline with the barbed wire and landed a Styles Clash for another near fall. Finally, the aerial assassin sealed it by wrapped barbed wire around Davis's head and hit another hidden blade. Even with the buildup of this match, the pace of the main event did not quite land. Davis kicked out multiple times against offense that would have easily won any other night. Still, it was a fun and gory battle through the overrun that solidified all the more that Ospreay is ready to do anything to win at Wembley Stadium. This victory, Ospreay puts one of the two big losses on his record since returning behind him. For most, that will be more than enough and keep the biggest story in AEW going for another week. It was surprising to not see Kenny Omega at all, but with his health, it may be best to not push him toward frequent travel ahead of one of the biggest matches of his career. All in all, I'm going to go ahead and give AEW in Mexico a solid A-. This was a really good show, man. Like I said, you had some bland moments, but for the most part, they did their thing on this show. This is one of the better AEW Dynamites of the year, and I think everybody will tell you that. So if you have not watched it, go back and watch it, guys. Like I said, it was a really, really, really good show. But yeah, man, like I said, I appreciate each and every last one of you guys for tuning in. Thank you for watching Who's Next with NXT, also for watching All Elite Recap. Thank you, guys. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And hey, comment below if there's any other promotions or anything else you want us to cover here on the channel. Until next time, guys, my name is Virgil. Keep those book and pencils sharp,